Hello everybody and welcome to this week's edition of Pinto's Preview on 740thefan.com and KFGO.com. This week for the North Dakota State University football team, it's a big time matchup between them and the University of Northern Iowa. The Panthers come in with an undefeated record of 4-0. They have an FBS win under their belt against Iowa State and are one of the top 5 teams in the nation. For NDSU, it's going to be a proof of how good their defense really is. Can they stop David Johnson? And who's going to step up defensively to make some big plays against this high-powered UNI offense? First, however, let's look back at last week for the NDSU football team, a victory over South Dakota State University, 20-0. Zach Zenner held to 4 yards on 8 carries after going for 200-plus against the University of Nebraska the week before. NDSU, a dominant performance on defense. The offense left a little bit to be desired in the first 3 quarters, but started to pick it up towards the end. So NDSU moves on to 4-0, first Valley win of the season for UNI. This is their Valley opener into this week. So let's get into it. UNI against North Dakota State University. The first point I want to make is how big this game is. Now, it's early October. It's only going to be the first Valley game, like I said, for UNI, the second for NDSU. But in my mind, specifically for NDSU, this is kind of the de facto Missouri Valley Football Championship game. NDSU's schedule gets much easier from here on out. Now, I know they have road games against, I believe, Youngstown State and Southern Illinois, but NDSU has been just so dominant on the road the last 3 years, you don't see those as being issues. This game, to me, is the last tough game on NDSU's schedule. For UNI, they have one more game against South Dakota State that looks to be a bump in the road, but what they've done in the first 4 games would lead me to believe that the rest of the schedule for them is going to be pretty easy. So, whoever comes out victorious in this game, in my opinion, will be the Missouri Valley Football Conference champion at the end of the season. The second point I want to make is David Johnson, the UNI running back, and how NDSU is going to stop him. This dual threat running back can both catch the ball out of the backfield and run the ball between the tackles. Now, here's how I see it playing out. I don't think David Johnson's going to get that many yards rushing. We saw what NDSU did to Zach Zenner last week. I see about the same thing happening against UNI. Maybe a little bit more yardage because David Johnson is more of a shifty back. But even so, NDSU is so good at wrapping up and tackling. And those front 7, I don't think there are a better front 7 in the FCS than there is at NDSU. So, rushing, he won't get many yards there. If UNI wants to use him effectively, look for him out of the backfield, catching the ball, getting in open field, and breaking down some of those corners and some of those safeties who are unable to get him in one-on-one situations. That's where I think David Johnson will get his yards. Now for NDSU, it's all about the underneath routes, and it's all about making sure you have 2 to 3 guys on him when he comes out of the backfield. But for David Johnson to be effective, I see UNI using him pretty heavily in the passing game on Saturday. The third point I want to make is how good is this Bison D? We're going to find out come Saturday. Now, with NDSU against UNI, the offense for the Panthers, like we've said, is dynamic. They can throw the ball, they can run the ball, they can do a lot of things effectively. Sawyer Cole Morgan has a very good grasp on this Panthers offense, and he's a better quarterback than Austin Sumner. That's for sure. David Johnson is a better running back when it comes to doing more things than just running the ball than Zach Zenner. With those 2 things said, we're going to find out, can NDSU match up with UNI and stop them offensively? It's going to come down to how good these defenses are. UNI's defense is really good, something like 3rd or 4th ranked in the nation when it comes to points allowed. Can they stop NDSU on 3rd down will be a question. Can they stop NDSU in the run game? But going back to the original point, how good is NDSU's defense? We're going to find out on Saturday. We all know it's really good, but can it stop this dynamic offense of UNI? My X factor for this game is Travis Beck. Why? Well, David Johnson. I think I've said his name enough in this preview, but he's the guy who's the key to this offense. If NDSU wants to win this game, they need to limit his yardage and open field space. Travis Beck is probably one of the fastest, if not the fastest linebacker on this team. I see him, and this is completely, I haven't heard anything, I'm just taking a wild guess, but I see him having some plays where he's asked to shadow Johnson out of the backfield. You think a 3rd and 6, maybe even 3rd and 4, where you're unsure if you want to run or pass, and that will be dictated as the game goes on and UNI figures out how good their running game is going. But in those situations, look for Travis Beck to be shadowing David Johnson and look for him to have some assignments where he has to be with David Johnson coming out of the backfield and making one-on-one tackles in space. So look for Travis Beck as the X factor in this game. Finally, my prediction. Been hearing a lot, seeing a lot of Bison fans say NDSU big. I don't think so. I think they'll win. Don't get me wrong. I think NDSU will come away victorious, but I think it's going to be a very tight game. I'm going to go ahead and say 20-17, and even 3 points to me is more than you'd think. These are two really good defenses and two offenses that can put up points when put in the right situations. To me, 2017 NDSU seems about the right amount. In the end, it's this NDSU crowd. You can't win in the Fargo Dome when you can't even hear yourself think. And that's what it's going to be like on Saturday. For Pinto's preview on 740thefan.com and KFGO.com, I'm Daniel Gunderson.